And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to do is we're going to set up 3 zones using the homing missile, because the homing missile will react when we walk into each one of those zones. And what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 different homing missiles and 3 different AIs, and this will allow us to be able to set up the 3 different zones by actually defining the zones and actually changing. We're going to be adding our first what's called a branch condition, and that branch condition is going to give us what are 2 conditions that need to be met. That it needs to be between basically this X and Y and Z, this XY and this XY axis. So with that, let's go ahead and get started, because it is quite a bit of things that we'll need to do. So the first thing we want to do is let's double click and open up our AI, and this is actually the different AIs that we're going to want to create. So we're going to want to create AI1, AI2, and AI3. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so here's the AI, and we're going to leave this one as AI. Let me just go ahead and rename it. Let's call it AI1. Okay. So we'll right click on that and we'll duplicate, and we'll duplicate one more time. Okay, so we have AI1, AI2, and AI3 that were auto-named for us. So let's go into AI1 and make the changes that we're going to need to make. Now, first things first is this has got a unique function name, which is called follow player. If all of these things are called follow player, then we're going to have a problem. Now, this one being called follow player, let's go ahead and call this one follow player 1. So let me go in there and I'm going to say follow player 1. And what I like to do, instead of renaming a custom event, I just like creating another one. So let's type in custom event. And this one we're going to type in and call it follow player 1. Okay, and this is actually, like I said, where we're going to be making the changes. So let me give us a little bit more space here, and we're going to pull this guy out just a little bit. And I like to clean this up by putting it a little bit closer. All right, so we still are going to want it to obviously move towards the player. What we're going to want to do, however, is create, like I said, a branch condition. So let's go ahead and create that. You can either type the word if, like IF, or you can actually type in the word branch. But if you type in if, you will see branch, not if. So go ahead and click on that. And we're going to click off of the true statement and make that go to the AI. Now I'm just going to pick these up just a little bit so they're up a little bit higher. Now, if we hover over the branch condition, we say that we see that it's called a branch statement, and the description for it is if condition is true, execute goes to true, otherwise it goes to false. So by default, it does have a condition checked, and this would be a true statement. So right now, if we ran this, it would work exactly the same way. Nothing really would have changed, because we're saying the condition is met by having it checked, and we're running it through the true. Otherwise, we could uncheck this and run it through the false, and we would still get the same condition. It would still work. But what we want to do is we actually want to figure out where the player is, where the first person player is, and then if it is within this XY zone, then if that is true, then we want it to move towards the player. But if it's not true, then we don't want it to do anything. It would give us a false statement, which is nothing. There's nothing going off. So it would get to this point and go, and there would be nothing for it to go. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to get player character. Okay, and what this is going to do is this is connected to player 0, which is us, which is the first person player. So from here, the next thing that we're going to want it to do is get world location. So let's right click and get world location. Let's try doing it off of this. Okay, so because we're doing it off of this, it's actually associating this search with the first person character, and there we actually get something like get world location of the capsule, the mesh, so anything that's associated with that first person character. What we want to do is get the capsule component, because this is something that will register events to it. So let's go ahead and do that, and you'll see that we get this little transition box that we didn't really ask for, but what it's doing there is helping us convert this from a object reference to a target, because this will actually combine it and send it to the first person world, to where it is in the world, I'm sorry. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to need to do is split this out into an X, Y, and a Z axis. So there's two ways that we can do this. We can say break vector. So if we, well, one is break vector, and I think the other one is break 2D. If you break it 2D, it only gives you the X and the Y. If you break vector, it actually gives you X, Y, and Z. So let's go ahead and do both. So let's type in break. And there's the break vector, and then you'll see that when we connect that, it's going to give us the X, Y, and Z that we can then set a range to. So that's one way. The other way would be, like I said, I think it was a 2D vector. So vector 2D, there it is, break vector 2D. And if you do it this way, you'll get a little converting box, but then you'll get the X, Y, right? So I like the other way just because it's a little cleaner, and if I want the X, Y, and Z, I get it. So I'm just going to type in break and vector. Okay, so if you've ever heard anybody speak like in military speak, right, they say, where are your vectors? This is what they're asking you for. They're asking you for where your X, Y, and Z location is, so that they can come and find you, right? So where are your vectors? So now the thing that we need to do is actually I'm going to move this back just a little bit more so we can get a little bit more space. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to set up a range, and that range is going to be set up here. So let me just fix that. So we basically need to set up a range. So what we're looking to create is an in range float. So if we click out and we type in range, and there it is right there underneath math, float. And what the float means is that it's a series of numbers. We can set up a min and a maximum. We can include or exclude the numbers themselves, which make up so as soon as we get into it, or whether it has to be numbers inside that value. And we need another one of these because we want to do the same thing to the Y, because we want to set up an area. So we need to have the 2 points on one side of the XY and then the 2 points on the other side of the XY, because if we move across, the two X's would be the same, and then if we move down, the two Y's would be the same. What we would have to do is figure out whatever the two adjacent corners is. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select this one, hit Control C, Control V, so I make another copy of it, and then we're going to connect this to the Y as the input value for the ranges. So basically we're saying here, get the player's location, the number, the person assigned as index 0, if their capsule in the world, wherever it is right now in the world, is or crosses over this XY vector, and it's within these tolerances for the minimum and the maximums for the range, and if that condition is true, then we want you to move towards it. Now the only problem right now is that if we try to connect this, we have two what are called return values, and right now they're in red. And a red is a boolean, and what that means is that it is something that would give you a true or a false value. So if this is true, it's going to read as true. If this is not true, then it's going to read as false. So the only thing is that we actually need it to be within these two values, and it has to be within these two values. It can't be going all the way across the game at that value. So we have to sort of block it in. And to do that, we need an AND boolean. So we're going to type in AND, and we're going to see again underneath math that we have a function called AND boolean. So we're going to select that, and what that lets us do is combine two of these pins together, And with that, we will actually be able to send this as a single condition. So what we're saying now, again, none of this has changed back here. All we have to do is fill in the numbers now. And once we do that, if both of those are correct, then we will get a true condition, which will then allow us to be able to move towards the actor, right? So let's go and find those numbers real quick. So I'm going to find both the X and the Y values. And to do this, I'm just going to set up a split screen. So I'm going to grab this and slam it over to the left-hand side. And I'm going to select this one to be on my right-hand side. Now what I've done is, I've done this a few times now, is I've created a little cylinder rod, which is actually going to end up being sort of like my measuring stick, right? So wherever this guy is, this is the boundary of the box that I want to contain. So I need the XY value from this area, and then I'll need the XY value from that area. So now that it's set up here in this first one, let's go ahead and read and see what it has for its XY values. So for X, we can see that the value that I have is 600, negative 696 point whatever that is. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into what is the min value for the X. So I'm going to hit Control V, and it has collected all of that information. So I'm actually going to delete all of that, and instead of doing that, I'm just going to highlight this, do Control C, and paste that into that number. So wherever that X is value now, that is where that is. Now I also have my first Y value here. So let's go ahead and select that and hit Control C. And I'm going to paste that into the min value for the Y. So let's go ahead and do that there. So now we have the first X and Y coordinates. Now if we were to, that's very fuzzy. Let's kind of pull that out a bit. Okay. Now if we go over into the other direction, like over here, only one of the values changes, and so we would get the additional Y value that we need, but we might as well do both of them at the same time. So we're going to pull this all the way out and go down here to the adjacent corner that we want to record. Now I'm just going to zoom in, and I'm going to make sure that I get right on the edge of this thing. Okay, so now we would have two brand new X, or a brand new X and a brand new Y value. So I'm going to again pull the way out. I'm going to click in there, go Control C to copy. This is going to go as the new X value as the minimum. So now I do have a range. It's now saying from this X value to this X value. And let's do the same thing with the Y. So we'll do Control C and paste this into the Y. And now we have both of our numbers. So at this point, all I'm going to do is maximize this screen, maximize that screen, and now we can see that we have both sets of numbers there. So with those both sets of numbers, we can look at the entire equation and see what we have. I'm just going to clean this up by putting it a little bit closer to each other. Okay, so again, we're saying when the event begins, do this thing called function follow player 1, which is the one down here, follow player 1, get my location, wherever my capsule is, get that X, Y, and Z value, send the X value to here. If it's within this and that's true, that's part of the condition. If this is Y and it's between these two values, then that's also true. And then that's going to make this condition or this branch statement true. And if it's true, then we're going to get the true branch, and that's going to come down this way, and we're going to get them to move. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save, and let's see if this indeed does work. Now, the thing is that we also did change the name. So this is called HMissile HI1. We want to make sure that the pawns that are out on the floor also have the same name or are attached to the same AI. So actually what I might end up doing is deleting these off of the floor, just so that way I can copy and paste ones that already have what I'm looking for in them. So Okay, so we are going to go to HMissile. I'm just going to double click and open it first. We'll notice that it does have a compile message there, so we would have had some kind of issues. Let's select HMissile self and let's see what it has for the AI. So let's select HMissile HI1. Let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And let's close this and let's put, let's say, a few of those out on the floor. And do not have that. Here we go. Here we go. But if I walk in there now, it does come after me. Let's put an additional one of these over on the other side. So we'll place one here. Okay, and my point being is that if I walk into this area, none of these should attack me, and if I walk into this area, both of them will try to attack me. So we'll be setting up, for the most part, the same situation that we would have had initially, but now we'll be able to give this one a different HI AI. We'll be calling it HMissile HI. Wow, so many acronyms and little abbreviations. HMissile _ AI2 will be going to this one. So let's go ahead and just check our conditions and verify that they are doing what we think they are. So if I walk into this area, nothing happens. Neither one of the missiles move. If I walk into this area, they both do indeed try to attack me. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. And now all I have to do is basically go here. I can copy and paste all of this information. So let's say everything like this. I can do a Control-C. I'll go into HMissile 2, which doesn't have any of this information yet. We'll go ahead and pull this guy out. We'll hit a Control-V. Now remember that the numbers are going to be different. This information will stay the same. This will stay the same. We need to create a new name for this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and create a new custom for it. So let's do a custom events. And we'll call this follow player 2. And let's go ahead and copy this because that was the problem last time. Control-C. Let's place this here. Okay. And then we'll connect that across. And then, oh, sorry, that actually has to go to the true, to the branch condition. And then the true will move over here. Now, if we left it exactly this way right now, we would still get exactly the same condition, and the reason why is because our x, y values have not changed. So let's go ahead and do that. So before I compile and save, what I'm going to do is do the same thing. I'm going to slam that over there to the side so I can get a split view of this. And this time I'm going to grab my little measuring stick. If I can select it, we might have to zoom in. There we go. And I'm going to use that to measure the other area. Okay, so now that I have that in the right place, I'm going to go find the transform information for it. There's my new X value, so I'm going to do a Control-C to copy. And I'm going to place that there. Then we're going to grab my new Y value, so we'll go Control-C. This will be the top value here, so Control-V. And now we'll move it down into this bottom corner. Okay, and now we'll do the same thing. We'll get our new values. So there's my new X, Control C, and my new Y. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And what I want to do now is let's go ahead and close all those boxes. And let's hope we can get this. There we go. Okay. All right. So what we'll need to do now is actually make a second one of these. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate. We are going to double click in him and make sure, yep, we're going to need to create another one of these. So let's go ahead and delete that and create a new variable. So let's call this so HMissile 1 underscore explode promote to variable. Now let's put the name there. HMissile 1 underscore. Okay, and with that we're gonna destroy it. So I'll grab that, place it up here. Remember that we need to destroy the actor. Okay, everything else stays the same. And the respawning will obviously need to have a new location. But for right now, let's just make sure that this is all right. Let's check our other code before we start changing too many things. So now we have HMissile and HMissile. You know what? I should probably call this one HMissile 2. And I should probably call this one HMissile 1. Okay, and we're going to select this one, and let's go ahead and delete it, and let's do a compile and save. Let's put the 2. And the 1. So same thing, I'm just going to delete that one and make sure that we have a fresh one. All right, so the only thing we need to do now is make sure that everything is saved. So this one has not been compiled, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and save it. And then the other thing I also want to do is make sure that H1 is going to be listening to the first. So we're going to go to HMissile 1, and we're going to see what AI it's listening to. And it's listening to AI 1, which is good. And then we're going to go to HMissile 2 and see which one of the two AIs it's listening to. So we're going to click into HMissile 2 and see that one is still listening to 1. So we're going to switch this over to HMissile AI 2, hit compile and save. All right, so 2 is the one sitting over here. 1 is the one sitting over there. And if I walk into this space, only this one should attack me. If I walk into this space, only this one should attack me. So let's see if I'm right. Okay, so this missile did indeed attack me, and the other one did not move. This one respawns. Okay, so that one now hit me. I haven't got this one to respawn, so it's not going to attack me again. So notice that the one over there has stopped moving and it is no longer attacking me. And if I move over here, I do indeed get it to attack me. And now I'm creating a condition where I have a zone 1 that has homing missiles that will attack me only if I'm in that zone, and I have zone 2 or zone 1 and 2 where I have missiles that will only attack me when they're in that zone. Now this could be at height differences, or this could be different. The nice thing about this is that you can set up characters, leave them in place, and whenever an enemy, whenever a character like yourself walks into that area, they have not detected you yet, and so thus have not tried to attack you. Otherwise, you would always, as soon as you walked into a navigation mesh, any one of the characters would start attacking you as long as you were close enough or inside the mesh and they were able to detect you. So this way we are able to create pawns that do have zoning that will only attack you if you are in their zone. So I hope you have enjoyed the video and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.